Welcome back to TMNT2. So for the rest of this, let's play something else. Let's play as Donnie now.
You're going for it because of the bow.
Scene 5. Come on, let's bust this joint. And yes,
But I thought marijuana was bad for you.
And yes, Splinter was kidnapped, so we gotta save him.
Okay, I forget which game it was, but I feel like Donatello was like one of the best characters to play as.
The previous game, the one we did, the one we did before
That's
this one.
That's the one I'm thinking of, yeah.
Yeah. The key.
Speaking of which, in terms of how the turtles play in this game,
it's a typical scrolling beat 'em up. If you play, if you've played scrolling beat 'em ups, you know exactly how this goes.
No, what I mean is, like, well, does any turtle have an advantage over the other in the
yes.
game?
Yes, Donnie, like usual, has the longest range. Each of the turtles also have their own special, unique abilities by pressing both the jump and the attack button at the same time. And that's basically it. It's a very basic scrolling beat 'em up, which again, for the time it was made, it's fine. I will say this, yeah, graphically, this is a huge step up from the previous NES game, because the previous NES game, I didn't really like how the turtles looked at all, but in here, yeah, they definitely look a lot, the graphics definitely got a huge step up from the previous NES game, because I still don't really care for how that game looks, like, it looks so overly basic with its designs.
Oh, no, a flickering laser. Let's jump over it.
Yep, basically. Just jump on this platform and go through it. You'll be fine.
The Shredder's ultra super top security. Bested by a mere jump.
Yes. Alright, moving on. Don't worry.
Is there even an advantage by going down on the lower path? Like,
not really,
I
no.
didn't even bother.
Not really, no. It's one of those, well, there are actually quite a lot of beat 'em ups that do this kind of thing, like Golden Axe does this, like, sometimes you'll have these, sections where a specific part of the group is full of danger, so it's also a good idea to try to reach for higher ground.
Oh, I get that. What I mean is, like, why even bother having those lasers there if you can just easily circumvent them?
Why not?
Because why? I have a better question for you. Why not? Yeah.
Wobba Fett.
Yeah. It's because turtles fight with honor, Jova.
Of course, yes.
But if Leonardo uses his swords, he might actually hurt somebody.
You're very funny.
I really did not like that crossover.
Sure. We already talked. Let's not get into that again.
Anybody except for Baird really did.
Well, actually,
I don't think you know what we're talking about.
Well, actually, to be fair, don't people usually like transdimensional turtles?
Transdimensional turtles, yeah, but
okay, more specifically, how the '80s turtles were handled.
I personally didn't care for them, but most people seem to be okay. Fellows is okay with it. I personally disagree, but
Are you guys referring as to how in basically every crossover we've had so far, the 80s turtles seem to be the plot of all the jokes all the time?
No, well, to be fair, it's not been like that 100% of the time. I mean, you can tell that the people who made Transdimensional, that's the 2012 one, right, Edge? The crossover, the 2012? Yeah. I can tell that the people who made that crossover had good intentions, unlike the people who made Turtles Forever. It's just that they do get some stuff wrong. Like, for example, they try to make this whole thing, that Leo never uses his swords because, okay, let me put it this way. If they wanted to make fun of the censorship from the original 80s show, what they should have done... Oh, hold on.
Yeah, what they should have done is held on.
There you go. Basically, these enemies are kind of annoying because they can only be damaged with jump attacks. Thing is, because of the perception is not exactly the best, it's kind of a bit hard to tell if you are right above the robots, so you have to do a bit of guessing. Like the drop shadow is supposed to be your cue. it can still be hard to do it in the heat of the moment, though, because again, on the
Apparently you can hit them with ground attacks like he just did.
you can. It's not the recommended way, I will say. Like it's like if you try to do it with just ground attacks, you'll have a hard time defeating all of them in a good time. So to try to make this as fast as possible, make sure to use aerial attacks. That's what I recommend personally. But to answer, here's the thing. Don't get me wrong. Like you can parody the way the 80s cartoon was censored. Here's what I would have done. Parody the fact that all the foot soldiers are robots instead of humans. The reason they're all robots in the 80s cartoon is because there was a mandate that the turtles couldn't kill or even harm human beings. So to get around that, they made the foot soldiers robots. They could have made fun of that. Oh wait, the foot soldiers are robots? Oh yeah, and shit. How weird.
It's funny because Shredder in the 2004 series is kind of part robot / part alien.
But that was the plot twist.
So you could make fun of that, but instead what they do is they say, "Oh, I don't want to." Leo's like, "I don't want to use my swords because I might hurt somebody," even though that's not how 80s Leo behaved at all. Like 80s Leo uses swords all the time.
Definitely used his swords. Like if he didn't, I feel like there would have been complaints about that back then.
Let me put it this way, guys. It's not so much that they're hating on the turtles. It's the 80s turtles. It's more so that they don't seem to. They seem to not. They seem to be granting them a bit out of character because
they were fine in the first one, but when they got to Wanted, Bebop, and Rocksteady, it was like, okay, no, this feels like Turtles Forever, where they come off worse.
Let me put it like this: Turtles Forever is a crossover that definitely makes fun of them out of hatred. The second crossover, while its problems don't come from a place of hatred, they do come from a place of not getting the source material, assuming that they weren't doing it just to take the piss out of the 80s.
No, I don't.
That's not to say you can't make fun of it.
Oh no, definitely. You can make fun of it, and you should, because there is some inherent silliness that's really good for lampooning. My problem is that they seem to not really. Okay, they haven't either watched in a long time, or they definitely only are familiar with the public perception of the 80s cartoon rather than
it feels like, no, this is what we remember it being like,
yeah,
not what it actually is. Kind of like how everyone treats the Adam West Batman show.
Yeah, basically.
I will say this, ironically, the Adam West Batman show got better respect, especially since it got the cool 60s comic, which acts as pretty much a continuation of the series, and that one does remember that there could be definitely serious bouts here and there.
The first story ended with someone dying.
Like, let me put it this way.
To give him credit, at least with the 60s Batman show, that one was specifically made as a spoof of the series at the time, so at least people are a bit more justified with that. The 80s Turtles, no.
Okay, let me put it this way, though. Like, despite being a silly puppet show, Thunderbirds is still a show that, in its own universe, is still like the characters are still played straight, right? It's not like the show is self-deprecating, right?
Yeah, and to the newest show's credit, I don't think Thunderbirds Are Go does that either.
Sure. Now, imagine if someone tried to make a crossover between Thunderbirds Go and the original Thunderbirds, except they portrayed the original Thunderbirds characters as big parody, self-deprecating versions of them. You know, that's my issue. Like, where there seems that's a misconception. The original Thunderbirds was not self-deprecating. The show played its concept straight. It was silly, yes, but it wasn't self-deprecating. There's a difference between being silly and being self-deprecating. It's not like in the original Thunderbirds, the characters are constantly turning at the camera. Hey, look how silly this all is. You know, that's basically my point.
The thing to remember is that the 80s series, while it could be lighter in tone than the original stuff, did have plenty of moments where it took its plot seriously.
Oh no, there's an episode where April. I actually showed that episode to Dejah. There's an episode where April is actually poisoned by a plant that was aimed by the Shredder at the turtles, and she can die in 24 hours. And Splinter can make an antidote for her, but they need to get a specific plant in order to make the antidote. And the show treats that dilemma of April being possibly dying seriously. It's not like the turtles laugh at the fact that April might die. They actually treat it like the serious problem that it is. So this idea that the 80s turtles never take anything seriously, no, I'm sorry, that's a misconception. Sorry.
You know what I feel like the franchise could use? Something like an equivalent to Batman Brave and the Bold.
Yeah.
I also don't know. Batman the Brave and the Bold is kind of like a modern take on the 60s show, essentially. It's got some of the camp, but boy, God howdy, does it remember to have its serious moments.
Sure.
There's literally a story about Batman confronting his parents' killer in that one.
Mm-hmm.
Which was written by Bruce Timm and Paul Dini.
Huh. Figures that it had Kevin Conroy and Mark Hamill in it.
Yeah.
Even Adam West, I believe, as well.
Yes.
Indeed.
But yeah, no, I feel like the Turtles franchise could use an equivalent to Brave and the Bold. One that gives us something of a modern look at the 80s series that can at least help people remember that, no, in addition to comedy, it can be serious. It's not just a goofy pastiche that made fools of the Turtles.
It's one of those things where, let me put it this way, the tone of the 80s show is more so one of those where the writers are having fun with the material and they invite you. Like, for example, one of my favorite moments from Shredder in the 80s cartoon is where he throws a TV at the turtles and he goes, lights, camera, action, and he turns to the camera. I always wanted to say that, but it's not like, it's fourth wall breaking, but it's not like Shredder is saying, oh, look how stupid my line just now was. It's more so that the writers are having fun and they're inviting you to have fun with them, basically.
Like, seriously.
Look at it like this. There's a difference between Brave and the Bold and Teen Titans Go.
Yeah, basically.
Pretty much, yeah.
I did. I don't know. I thought the bit in Turtles Forever where they would say where they were mocking the thing, where they constantly talk to the camera for no reason.
That's the thing, Dwibs.
No, see, that one's funny because there was a payoff joke to it.
Yeah, that was fine. That was fine because there was a payoff. That being said, it's mostly just Raph that usually does the fourth wall breaking. There's the occasional bit where, that Shredder bit.
And Leo did it once. It's like, and he thought the other turtles were the ones that made the Woody.
Like, there's actually one from Donatello that I really love. This is another episode that I also showed. That there's one where Donatello. Basically, there's an episode that's a Michelangelo focused episode where Leonardo, Donnie, and Raph get captured, and it's up to Mikey to prove himself by saving them. Right. One of my favorite moments.
Show that Mikey is not the stupid one like some people tend to think.
That's actually a really good episode for Mikey, actually. Where was I? Yeah, one of my favorite moments from in terms of fourth wall breaking from the 80s cartoon is where there's a point, because basically they were kidnapped by a scientist who wants to experiment on them, right? There's a moment where he gets one of his mutants to grab Donnie. All right, and then Donnie's about to start fighting that mutant, but then when the mutant is overly burly and clearly way too strong for Donnie, I was like, on second thought, there's way too much violence on TV. But again, but that's it. They just say the line and that's it. They don't actually look at the camera and have the characters look at them. Because my big issue with Turtles Forever is more so that the 2003 characters are constantly looking at the 80s Turtles with this look of disapproval about look at how stupid they are. That's my problem. But anyway,
like the only one that should get away with doing that is Shredder.
Yeah, I agree.
And maybe to some extent Raph, because again, short-tempered.
Yeah, definitely.
So, oddly enough, though, I don't know if that was the intention, but it feels like the Batman crossover with TMNT was actually kind of taking cues from the 80s show as well. But mind you, done in a tasteful manner.
Okay, I thought I was
taking cues from everything.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was more like a general modern interpretation. Like, the only issue I have with the Batman crossover is the way they write Michelangelo. Like, I'm actually playing right now through the Platinum Games TMNT game, and the guy who writes the TMNT IDW comics wrote that game, and he actually does a really good job with Mikey's humor. Like for example, it's one of my favorite moments in TMNT by Platinum Games. Is where basically he's cooking the pizza on the microwave, and Ralph's like, okay, so when is that going to be done? Patience. You cannot rush perfection. Then of course Leo is discussing the plans for the next mission, blah blah blah. Then suddenly Mike's like, speaking of, there you go. He said, no, I forgot. Let me rephrase that. He said, no, hold on, Raph. A wise man once said, you can't rush perfection, as in you can't rush this pizza, right? Then later when he gives the pizza, I am the Michelangelo of pizzas, huh? Get it? And while he's gloating about how awesome his pizza is, everybody takes their slice, including even Splinter, and they all eat the pizza before Maggie can even notice. He's like, hey, wait, what? And then Leo's like, okay, let's go. You can eat some more pizza later, Mikey. And Splinter's like, a wise man once said, you snooze, you lose. And Mike is like, I hate wise men.
Like, okay,
that's how you do good humor with Mikey. Unlike the Batman crossover, where they just have Mikey say something really stupid, and the Batman characters look at him with disapproval. Basically.
Well, the only one that looked at him with disapproval is Damien, for obvious reasons.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of Damien's shtick.
I guess.
But, no, I think Michelangelo is kind of like writing Beast Boy for the Teen Titans show. You might think they're dumb at the first bout, but they're the kind of people who will show you that, no, they do have a brain in there, even if they don't always use it wisely, essentially.
It's humor that makes use of Mikey's personality without making fun of him. It's not humor at his expense.
I feel like Tom Waltz genuinely gets the... I'll spoil one story arc where Slash appears and Leo thought that he killed him in order to save his brothers. He's still alive. Let me finish. During the incident, one of Mikey's few human friends saw the whole thing and was scared. And he's like, I don't want to be friends with you anymore, Mikey, because it's too dangerous. And Splinter says that Michelangelo wants to be loved, just like how he loves others. So it's like, yeah, you get the character.
No, that's the thing. Like, one thing that people don't usually bring up about Mike is that he's the most emotionally frail of the four. And the first movie for 1990, that movie gets that. Like when they're doing that bonfire scene where they're meditating and trying to see if Mike is the only one that cries in that scene, illustrating that he's the one that's actually most affected by this.
Even in the 2014 movie, you know that bit where they're going down that snowy mountain?
Yeah.
Yep.
He has that reaction to when he thinks that April and the others are dead, and then Raph just goes by and says, "It ain't dead, no nuts."
Like for example, if you want to, I can even throw one of Tom's more silly Mikey jokes from that game as well, where basically they stop Bebop from stealing a bank. But problem is, Bebop for whatever reason wasn't trying to steal the money, which again, Leo asks, and very well, why bother breaking into a bank but not taking any money? So what should, and then Raph's like, so what do we do with the money? And while he does, in the meantime, Mikey is trying to order 10,000 pizzas with said money, and they all look at him. Mikey, okay, never mind, cancel that, dude. Wrong number. So that joke works because it's not look how stupid Mikey is. It's more so that Mikey is has kind of a naughty side to him, and okay, never mind, Mikey, you shouldn't do that. He's the least mature, not idiot, least mature. There's a difference. Go on.
Let me put it like this: there's a difference between being somewhat simple-minded, like Mikey can be, and actually being stupid. Like Mikey's way of thinking is very straightforward in a sense here, which of course may come off as foolish to others, but no, can make sense in his own way, shape, or form here. He is not dumb in the sense where he could not literally tie his shoes, if he wore shoes anyway.
No, yeah, sorry. Go on.
Yeah, again, there's a certain art to writing characters like that. This Tim guy, you say he's also writing for IDW? Tom?
He writes the IDW TMNT comics.
I'll give IDW credit. From the comic series of theirs that I've read, they
There it
always
is.
seem to find just the right writers for each of the franchises that they have under their belts.
Scene
They have
7.
a great writer for the
Hold on.
for the Transformers stuff.
Hold on. Scene 7, we gotta find the Technodrome. You're in the Technodrome. What do you mean we gotta find the Technodrome? You're in it.
I remember we made fun of this the original time we played
Dwebs.
this game, but yeah.
Dwibs, you gotta find Stoke.
I'm here.
Exactly.
Racing far across these new frontiers.
Deji, where did New York go?
Blame Ronald Reagan. That's my
gonna
answer
say-
for everything.
Winners don't use drugs.
Said Captain America, the guy who took drugs to get where he was.
Well, now
Basically, the moral of the story is, hey kids, if you wanna get strong, take steroids.
No. Don't you see, Des? He didn't take drugs. He got his shots.
But yeah, no.
So he got vaccinated.
Yes.
But no, yeah, that's true. Like, I have never read any of the IDW comics, but I can already tell that Tom really gets Mikey. No, I agree.
It also helps that Kevin Eastman is also involved with them.
Oh, does he draw the art for the comics?
He draws every variant cover. I'm not sure if he still does that now.
Ah, okay.
But he was also the editor as well.
Okay, cool.
If I recall correctly, with the
I love how every few years or so, one of the creators just isn't involved in the series for a while. Like how for post the late 90s, Kevin Eastman wasn't involved, it was just Peter Laird, and now it's the opposites.
if I recall correctly, the Platinum Games game of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, while the gameplay was lacking, the story was pretty good, if I recall correctly.
Honestly, Jova, so far, I've only done 2 missions so far. Honestly, so far, I'm enjoying it more than Korra. I mean, don't get me wrong, the gameplay is nothing special, but I will argue. But I will argue there's more. But I will argue it's less repetitive than Korra. At least it's fine.
Right. If I'm to try and gauge things, I feel like do we call them C or D team of Platinum? Since they apparently weren't even the A or B team, but regardless, it seems like this team went through something of an arc here. Like, yeah, Korra game was lackluster, the TMNT game didn't really get much higher reception, like, somewhat better, but then it culminated with Transformers Devastation, which does still have its own
Devastation
problem.
came out before TMNT.
Oh, okay.
I could have sworn TMNT came out before Devastation.
Devastation came out in 2015. Mutants Manhattan came out in 2016.
Oh, okay, in that case, then they got better with Transformers Devastation, but then took a downgrade with the TMNT game.
The funny thing is, Devastation is basically the blueprint for a lot of modern Platinum titles.
Let me put it this way: like, the thing is, Korra is just a beat 'em up and that's it, whereas Mutants in Manhattan actually does have variety in the stuff it has you do at the very least, so as a result the gameplay actually doesn't get as old, combined with the fact that the story has actual meat to it, unlike Korra. Yeah, it's definitely a much more enjoyable experience in my opinion.
That's why the thing I remember most from that game is the story, definitely. Like, the gameplay, and yeah, I'm not too surprised the gameplay has more variety since 4 Turtles, although, to be fair, we could argue that the gameplay should have had variety with Korra given the 4 different elements as well.
Like, for example, that's the thing, Jova. Yes, it has variety in the attack abilities, but aside from attack abilities, some missions have you can do stealth, minor stealth aspects about it. There's also missions where you have to protect one of the turtles. You have to protect Donnie. No. April is basically the girl in the chair in this game, basically. She's your girl in the chair, basically. For example, there can be moments where you can protect Donnie while he's disarming a bomb or some shit. There's also moments where you have to carry a specific object to somewhere. Like, for example, you can carry the gold bars away back to where they were from where the bad guys took them. So there is variety to the things you do. It's not just mashing attack buttons. You actually do some other stuff. It's not much, but it's something at least, which is more than what Korra gave, because Korra is just the same repetitive stuff over and over and over.
I'm guessing the reason it didn't really get as much high reception, though, was that, well, it was following the much better act of Transformers Devastation. Like, Transformers Devastation's biggest problem is that it's criminally short.
It's too
short. But other than that, it has a pretty rockin' gameplay style, a very, very good story, good cutscenes as well, and a ton of fan service, which gels well with the game as well.
A fantastic soundtrack.
Yes. Like, I mean, seriously, Transformers Devastation, now that feels like something that could have easily been made by the A-team of Platinum. Again, just wish it could have had more to it. And oh god, I remember these balls.
Yeah. The elevator. Basically, when you get down to it, you get to fight Krang and then Shredder. Alright. Yeah, as you can see, the Technodrome is by far the longest level in the game. Which, again, it's
Pedro, have you found the Technodrome yet?
I think I have.
I wonder if maybe... Okay, did this game release in Japan first?
Yes.
So I'm wondering if maybe when the arcade game was brought overseas, this was a mistranslation?
Probably.
That is my best guess.
It's probably something along the lines of, we gotta storm the Technodrome or some shit, but for some reason the localization team said search.
That being said, they didn't fix it for this port, so I don't know. Yes, Tetch?
You said that Devastation could have been made by the A-team. Well, I know who the director of that game was.
Who?
Don't tell me. Hideki Kamiya?
No.
Oh, who then?
Kenji Saito, the director of Metal Gear Rising.
Well, there you go then.
Wow, okay, that explains it.
Yep.
Really explains it. Well, you know, if you got a good head on your shoulders, you're bound to do good with it.
Honestly, so far, the only major niggle I have with Mutant's Manhattan is the fact that even on PC, it's capped at 30. Now, through modding, you can mod the game's executable to unlock the frame rate, but why wouldn't you have the PC version? Not to mention, the game was released on both on PS3 and 360 as well. Now, I can understand the PS3 and 360 versions being capped at 30, but I'm pretty... Considering the Telltale style graphics that the game is going for, I'm pretty sure the PS4 and the Xbox One could run this game at 60. There's much less the PC. Why is even the PC version is capped at 30, which is baffling.
No,
I'm wondering if it's just another case of it being a...
Hold on. Let Joa finish. Go on, Joa.
Thank you. I wonder if it's just another case of a company not doing a good PC optimization port.
I guess, but what about the PS4 and Xbox One versions? Those consoles can very well run that game at 60. You can't tell me. If I remember correctly, I think Korra on PS4...
PS3 release?
Yes, it did. That's what I'm saying. The PS3 and 360 versions, I can understand why those versions run at 30. But I'm pretty confident the PS4 and the Xbox One can run this game at 60. It makes little...
This is why I'm pretty sure it was the company doing a shoddy PC port, because that's the only reason I could see it not being able to reach 60 on PC.
That's the thing, Jova. If you manually uncap the frame rate, it runs just fine at 60. So it's not like it needs more optimization. You can just uncap the frame rate, it runs just fine. So I have no fucking clue what the fuck they were thinking.
They screwed up with the port, it sounds like. If it couldn't reach that 60.
That's the thing, Jova. It can. Literally, all you have to do to run the PC version at a perfectly stable 60 is just literally mess with the X values and unlock the frame rate cap. You don't even have to mess with the code to optimize it. The game is already prepared for 60 FPS. They just left it at 30 for some reason. It's weird. Like, all right, there we are.
It's also 30 on PS4 as well.
Yeah, I know. That's what weird. Because I'm pretty confident those consoles can run that game at 60. It's a very...
It's more than likely a rush job.
Again. Again, I do get the feeling that something went wrong with the porting job. Again, it's not even the first time I've seen this happen, where a game could easily be 60 FPS and does have that capabilities on PC, but for some reason, the company mucks up that part of the
Let me see if
porting.
Korra runs at 60 FPS on the PS4, because the Korra game runs at 60 FPS on the PC with no need for mods.
I mean, I need a mod to get the game now on PS4.
Let me see, Korra PS4 frame rate.
It's not apparently.
Oh, it's not. Well, it's a good thing I recorded on PC then. How weird! Like, because these games should be able to run just fine at 60 on the PS4.
I mean, the definitive edition of DMC ran at 60 on PS4.
Well, yeah, that's because it's a remaster of a PS3 360 game. Which again begs the question, like if DMC can, which is a much more visually demanding game compared to something like Korra, it doesn't really make any sense.
Boggles the mind, doesn't it?
Alright, so now let's skip to the beginning of my Krang fight, because I actually died a couple times here, because yeah, Krang's boss battle is very difficult, because one of the things about this port is that it's a straight port indeed.
Because the way it was edited made it look like going through that door caused you to get a game over.
One other thing, fortunately, the game does have a generous continue system where if you die during the Krang boss battle, you can continue straight from the beginning of the boss battle. You don't have to do the level again, thank God. However, the Krang boss battle can be very difficult because they didn't change much about how the difficulty is done from the game. Now, the original game was an arcade game, so obviously it was hard as balls to get you to spend more quarters. When they ported the game to the NES, they didn't really fine-tune the difficulty that much. As a result, much of that arcade overly hard difficulty is still present in this port. So yeah, trying to do this on an NES game where you have limited continues can be a real tough nut.
Why don't you... Don't worry, kids, just put coins in your NES. Oh wait, you can't do that.
No. Fortunately, there is, and since there's no invincibility code for this game, yeah, you have to really do it the hard way. The thing is, trying to when it comes to defeating Krang, I definitely recommend using jump attacks, because trying to hit him dead on with ground attacks, he'll just kick you. So, it's much... See, if he kicks you, he will literally throw you all across the room. So, it's actually... you're actually safer using jump attack than just hitting him on the head.
And there's the alarm for the boss in the background.
Shell shock. Alright. Yeah, Krang is basically a damage sponge. He takes a shit ton of hits to defeat. Yeah. Again, you can tell that they really got to the. You can tell that they okay. This is the final bosses. We have to make them supremely hard and take a lot of hits. Fortunately, when he gets near death, when the bosses get near death, they start blinking. So you do have a visual cue of telling how close you are to defeating the bosses. So there's that. All right, there we go. Now he's blinking, which means he's near death. Come on, Krang. I will defeat you, turtles! Alright. There you go.
Well, that's one way to do it.
I'm invincible!
So invincible that he's running away.
And now you have to battle Shredder. So there you go. Unlike the previous game, which was more based on the comics, instead of his red attire from the comics, Shredder is sporting his purple outfit from the cartoon.
Wait,
I dine on
Turtle soup! Yeah, you actually already said that line earlier.
their clothes?
Actually, that's the thing.
Is this what Shredder's Revenge was referencing?
Yes, Dedge. Shredder's Revenge is basically a gigantic love letter to TMNT games.
Were there any games based on the on the 2003 show?
Yes, there was a whole trilogy on the GameCube, PS2, and
Battle
Xbox.
for Nexus.
Yeah. They did make those, and Konami made them as well, like they did for these. From what I've seen from Retro Rebound's reviews, they seem like they're fine. Maybe I'll record them at some point.
Because Konami had a pretty long history with the series. It even carried through to the end of the 2003 show, and they recently got back onto it with this.
Mm-hmm. Well, when it comes to according to the producer, the Konami producer of this collection, like after they finished the Castlevania and Contra collections, they noticed that one particular thing that was in demand was a re-releasing of their old Turtles games, and that's when they got in contact with Digital Eclipse to see if they could handle it, and there you go.
The rest is history.
What I was gonna say, that's the interesting thing, Dej. There's actually the cool thing about that line is that the show can actually, while it is true that the first time you hear it in the show, it's done more in a silly kind of way. There actually is a really good series moment when the Shredder is almost manages to kill the Turtles, and he even delivers that line in a more. It even have James Avery deliver that line in a more serious, imposing way compared to the earlier version of that line. So they actually do a good job with that line at some points. I miss James Avery.
Yeah.
Oh, interesting. I was looking up the future games, and if you beat the first episode and the third game based on the 2003 show, you could unlock a altered version of Turtles in Time.
Yeah, it's cool. They did that.
Extraordinary.
Wait. You mean Battle Nexus?
No. You
Oh, yeah, in the third one.
What was the game that you have to beat?
Yeah.
You have to be episode 1 of TMNT 3 Mutant Nightmare.
Yeah. He's talking about the third 2003 Turtles game. Like the second one, Battle Nexus, is the one that has the original arcade game. The third one has Turtles in Time. The only major issue I have with that port is that they removed the TMNT theme song, which, I mean, that game is just not the same without the theme song. Anyway, Freak the Foots, Mangle the Mousers, and Total the Technodrome. That's turtle power! But what about the Shredder and Krang? Burn to toast, vaporize to milkshake, or escape to Dimension X? Until we know, none of us can sleep safely in our shells.
But you have beds.
Alright. Congratulations! And you can see the turtle blimp in the background there. Alright, and now we have the credits, if I remember. Yeah, TMNT staff. There you go. Alright, Dej, what do you think of this one?
It looks fine. Well, looks like an upgrade compared to the first one, but I don't think that's released in motion.
No, it's not. But this is definitely the leap in the right direction that they needed at the time, definitely.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, it looks good.
Alright. Blips.
I think I did play a bit of this game when I was going through the recent collection, and it's okay. It's just standard beat 'em up with Turtles.
Okay, Jova.
Yeah,
sorry.
I don't mind the odd beat, and I don't mind the odd beat 'em up every now and again. I also prefer 3D ones, but this 2D one is at least pretty decent.
Sure.
Right.
Jova. Oh look, Morio Kishimoto. Morio Kishimoto worked on this game apparently. I mean, it's M. Dot, so for all we know, maybe the M stands for something. But yeah, M. Kishimoto. Huh. Interesting. Go on, Jova.
Yeah, no, this is a good improvement overall here. It's got a nice enough gameplay loop.
And it has the Turtles theme.
Yes, that definitely helps. Next.
Alright, as for me, no, again, it's a classic. I played it back in the day. Again, huge, trust me, as someone who did play the original NES game back in the day, yeah, this was definitely, like, I remember back in the day, me and my friends were like, why didn't they just release this game from the get-go? Like, oh, Ha 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 ha. That's a tease for Turtles 3, the Manhattan Project.
You think I'm dead, Turtles, but I am not.
I mean, literally mentioned how we're pretty sure you're probably still out there at the end.
Indeed. Yeah, it's a solid beat 'em up for its time. Obviously, compared to the stuff we will get later with Turtles 4, and of course, eventually Shredder's Revenge, and even from what I can tell, the 2003 Turtles games, it's definitely very basic. But again, for 1990, this was probably the best we could have gotten at the time. So no complaints here. Tune in next time, everybody, because as we just saw, Shredder will be back in the third NES game, the Manhattan Project. See you then.
Sounds fun.